The giveaway for the 675 horsepower Supercharged Camaro ends this Wednesday. Click on the link in the description. Buy a mug or a digital download and get entered to win. This is our fastest and most powerful car we've ever given away. And someone's going to win this. WhyNotYouGear.com. Click the link in the description. Of all the Panther bodies, the P7A New York City taxi was the GOAT. This is a 2011 Ford Crown Victoria P7A New York City package. This is the greatest. I understand it's not the iconic checker cab from all your favorite noir movies, and nor is this the ever-present Seinfeld-era Caprice and Caprice Classic taxicab. The New York City P7A is the greatest of all time because it hung around for so long. It hung around for so long, we assumed it was permanent. As of filming, there are fewer than 10 Crown Vics still in service in New York City, and all of them are scheduled for retirement in 2023. P7A taxis and their in-generation pre-2010 Panther body P7 have a wheelbase longer than a standard Panther body, but shorter than the Executive L. No, New York City taxis are not old police cars. They are their own model, painted in Ford color code BY, that is bus yellow. These vehicles were going to be worked to death. So while they are different from civilian models, they're really not the heavy-duty, built-to-last things that everybody assumes they are. Most taxis are retired after 3 to 5 years of service, although in this particular taxi's case, this was in service for 10 years. A New York City taxi is nothing but a disposable tool. Nathaniel, why? Why did you want one?
Why did you want this?
Very good question. And I don't know if I necessarily have a direct answer for that. I bought the car February of this year, but it's been about a year and a half of work to get the vehicle. I think really one of the first things that came to mind was what was the most amount of car and the most unique car I could get to bring to car shows for the least amount of money. And, you know, I'd always wanted a land yacht, Crown Vic, something. And I was driving down the 139 covered tunnel in Jersey City, and I saw this come out of the Holland Tunnel. This exact car come out of the Holland Tunnel.
This very car?
This very car. And I did what any normal 17-year-old would do, and took its medallion number down, just in my notes in my phone, to see if I could relocate the car. So after a little bit of research, I found that there were, at the time, it was about 2019, September of 19, about 30 of these still on the road in New York City. And what I did was, New York City has its own database where all the medallions and all the drivers' names are listed for public record. And so I just reverse searched this medallion number. I found the driver's name, and a little bit of white page searching later, found his number, and cold called him, and said,
what was that call like?
Weird, as you would imagine. I called him. I said, I won't say his name for the sake of privacy, but I said, is this so-and-so? And he said, yes, it is. I said, do you drive the Ford Crown Victoria, medallion number 3E43? And he goes, yes, I do. And I said, well, it's interesting because you have a very uncommon taxi cab in New York. It was part of my childhood growing up. It was part of the cityscape. And I know that they're going to have to come off the road soon because the TLC requires that every 3 to 5 years the car gets replaced, which this one had 10 years, but there's a reason for that. So I was wondering when the car is getting retired and what your plans were for the future of it. And he said to me that, a cab company in Queens was going to buy the car off of me for $1,000. And he said, but if you have $1,000 cash, I'll give you the title. It's yours.
Was that all in one phone call?
Yes. And so I said, $1,000. Okay. Hung up the phone, realized what I just said yes to, and started getting the $1,000. And it wound up being a 1.5-year endeavor, communicating with him on and off to finally get the car because of COVID restrictions and all this stuff. They allowed him to keep driving the car until the end of 2021. At which point they required him to get a wheelchair accessible cab. He told me on February, he texted me and he said, car is ready for pickup. Would you like me to deliver it to your house?
And, nice guy.
And he was
for a fee?
No.
Really?
And I said, well, absolutely, I'm ready to pick up today. Mm-hmm. And so I came home at like 6 o'clock that night, and sure enough, there was a bright yellow cab and him standing right there. And we had met before. I'd test driven the car a few months prior, but I pretty much took it down the road, liked where it stood, shook hands, and drove him back home.
This is weird being in the front.
Yes.
First thing I notice, I have no legroom in the front.
That is correct. That is something I found out too. It's because of the rear partition. This guy saps all legroom pretty much right away. And even me, who's a relatively short person, about 5'5", I'm still, I mean, you can see my knee is still sticking right out when I hit the brake.
Ugh.
So it is slightly uncomfortable. You're also sitting like it's a church pew because there is no rear support or rear room to.
You can't recline.
You can't recline any farther. This is as far as it reclines in this position. Then this is about as comfortable a position I can get.
Wow.
And also, there's no telescoping wheel, tilt only. So you can either have full bus driver or full cab driver.
Is that how most
of these drivers drive like this?
Huh.
As far as I've seen in videos and stuff like that, most drive like this because it's easier to keep one hand on the wheel and do the continuum turning maneuvers that they have to do without having to be up here.
Gotcha.
So I think it's more ergonomic than anything. So this is the meter. This was original to the car. It's a Pulsar 2030R. They were made in Long Island City. The Pulsar 2030R, or the Pulsar meters in general, are used throughout the country, but this one would be specified and programmed for the New York City meter fares and rates. Because how these work is that there's a vehicle speed sensor plugged into the car somewhere. That's what these wires are here. That plug into the OBD2 sensor, or the ECU of the car, and reads vehicle speed signals and sends those pulses to here, which is translated into the monetary value of mileage.
So it's not a timer.
It is not a timer. Okay. It is both a timer and a meter. Okay. So if we look at the rate card here, this is a recreation of what the meter card would have been like. This is ripped directly from a New York cab that I took a photo of when I was in the city yesterday. So you can see that it's $2.50 for the initial charge. So when a person gets in and they press the higher button, $2.50 comes up immediately on the meter. Then, and then as you set off, the every fifth of a mile, it calculates how the distance. Every fifth of a mile, 50 cents is added to the fare. Or if you are going less than 12 miles an hour for more than 60 seconds, 50 cents is added to the fare. So it works as a timer and a speed sensor. Now, that is only used for city fares. If you are doing JFK Airport flat rates, Newark Airport, group ride, Westchester and Nassau County, or other destinations outside of NYC, they're all negotiated flat rates for the most part, except for this one, which is a metered fare doubled. And then you also have surcharges, and that's controlled by this here. You can see that there's a little sign that says extras, a little LCD, very small, very faint.
Oh, there it is.
It says extras, and you would use these buttons to control the extras. And those extras are, again, regulated by the TLC, which say they're required to give a taxi improvement fund surcharge, depending on the time, overnight or rush hour surcharge, and then congestion surcharge depending on the location in Manhattan that you're in, and then you're also responsible for all tolls.
Are these yellow cabs that I see, are they limited to the borough of Manhattan, or are they everywhere within the 5 boroughs?
So,
or does that get even weirder?
That gets very weird.
Oh boy.
So they have the exclusive rights to go from, I believe it's 196th or 96th. I'm not sure. It's a 100-block difference, so that is a big difference. But a 96th Street, for the sake of argument, down, they have exclusive rights to pick up cars, to pick up street hails. The people that, flag them down, they have exclusive rights, and they're the only people who are allowed to do so. And they are regulated by this meter card. If you go out, so they are also the ones who can drive you from Manhattan to the airports.
The only ones from Manhattan, or
if it's a street hail?
Okay.
If it's a street hail, you can get a black car. You can dispatch a black car, and they can drive you with a pre-negotiated rate
to the airport.
To the airport, anywhere actually. Okay. You can also go anywhere in this car.
So I can be in Manhattan. I know this is a silly question
for
guys that doesn't know New York City that well. Say I don't know. I'm just giving this address because this is where the bus drops off. 34th and Madison.
Right.
I go 34th and Madison. I need to go to Brooklyn. So, I can hail, and whatever the price is.
Right. So you hail, and to go into those boroughs, you're based off the meter and distance.
Okay.
Distance and time.
Okay.
However, if you were going to, let's say 34th and Madison, and you wanted to go to JFK, that's a flat rate, $52.
I got you.
But here's where it gets a little wonky. Once they leave Manhattan, they no longer have the rights to pick up anybody.
Oh, so now they gotta, it's their own gas money and toll money leaving, saying coming back from Brooklyn Bridge or Tunnel, that they're going to have to just eat.
Yes.
For that, and they won't be happy going there.
Yes.
Ah.
So that's a big thing with Newark Airport. That's why for Newark Airport, it says here it's $17.50 flat plus the metered rate. So whatever it costs to get out of Manhattan and get all the way to Newark Airport, add another $17.50 to that. And you also need to add the tolls. So let's say...
So the passenger is paying Easy Pass.
Is paying Easy Pass, which is now like $16.
Yeah.
And you're also paying... So yeah, you're paying $16 to get back in, for him to get back in, plus the metered rate, plus $17.50. This is the communications terminal between dispatch office and the... or the TLC, I should say. The TLC and the driver. So there are sensors throughout all the car. I'm not sure if you can see right here. There is one sensor, and then right there's a GPS receiver. Those would have, at the time, before they were all cut off when the car got decommissioned, communicate with this machine and the rear TV. And those would tell you your location in the city. You can specify how many passengers there are, which would also add to the meter. And it would also, I believe it would give you directions. Not too much is known about this particular machine outside of the cab industry, and trying to get information on it is very scarce.
Yeah, there's no labels, there's no nothing on this.
Correct. So I was able to determine it's a Trimble. It's a Trimble electronics driver's log. That is about as far as I've gotten with it. It also has custom firmware from the meter shop that specifies it. Because the meter shops, the company is, there's two main companies, Creative Mobile Technologies and Curb. They lease. So the cab drivers don't own this equipment. They lease the equipment from the outfitter.
Man, that's like old days when you had to lease a phone from the phone company, or like cable. Oh, I guess you still do that with cable modems. But.
So the outfitter will technically owns all of this unless you buy it outright. And so when the car is decommissioned, this all comes out.
So why is this stuff still here?
So that was for the sake of my authenticity. There are very few, or there are a few drivers who still own the stuff outright. For example, you can own the meter outright. As far as I know, you can't own this and the TV outright.
And the TV is controlled by the driver?
So there's a missing component that you're not seeing here, and that would have been a fanless PC shoved in between here.
Yeah.
And it's a custom design. It's custom for the outfitter, and that controls. It's a Windows embedded machine that runs off the ignition, power from the ignition.
Yeah. And
that controls the rear TV.
So if it's if it's just running some Windows, okay, so it's like some mini board with a bunch of digital video on it that I loops? Or?
So good question. So this is not known outside of really what I've been able to discover, because that SD card that I mentioned that had the videos also had all the software on there.
It's like a Raspberry Pi or
so
something?
So as far as I know, it's a Windows compact embedded machine that runs.
I want to get a picture of it, so I'm going to go in the back.
Okay.
This is so bizarre. Okay.
Okay. So they used these Windows compact embedded machines with the SD card, and what they would do is it's pretty much one main program, one main executable, running multiple other executables inside of it.
Huh.
And it's sort of piecemealed together, and then in there is a multimedia player that plays the videos. So there's a huge amount of stuff that we don't have enough time to go into, frankly, that I've found out. It takes hours of research to get this stuff, and it's all very vague because you can't really talk with these outfitters either. They won't humor the civilian trying to get information.
Why would they be so protective? I mean, it's just a digital video player with the volume just cranked up all the way.
Right. So
I believe shitty speakers down here.
So I believe
the nastiest sound I've ever heard was like slightly pre-Uber 2014, our first New York auto show. We're just riding in a cab, and there was like some ad for somebody's YouTube channel on this. But it was all like peaking all over the place.
Yes.
It sounded worse than mall speakers. And we were only in the car for a few blocks, and already I hated it. Is this for like money?
So yes. So before this partition is Crown Vic is fitted for the Crown Vic, so it fits nicely in it. But also, one of the things that this has is before the credit card machines, which were introduced in I believe 2007. Before that, it was cash only.
Damn.
These partitions this had a cash option here, so you would put the cash in if the driver had the window closed for security.
Yeah.
They would put the cash in. Driver would collect the cash, dole it out, and give you change right back here.
Damn.
So this air conditioner, as far as we know, or as far as I can figure out from the Ford brochures and the option specs that they have. This is a custom order for the city of New York with the P7A package. So what this would have is, or the reason this was put in is because the New York City requires that all vehicles have rear ventilation. Now this is why, if you have been in a New York cab recently within the past 10 years, and you aren't in a Crown Vic, let's say you're in a Toyota Camry, that's why they'll have a huge air duct of tubing, like the what do you call it? The ducting tubes.
You mean the flexible accordion
yes,
style?
And they'll stick it in an air vent and shove it up here.
Yeah.
That's because they don't have rear AC. So during the outfit, for other cars, they have to find a way to get rear ventilation in the car. Usually what they do is they take the center console, put a piece of ducting, and cut out a hole so that it has some ventilation. But Ford put one from the Grand Marquis and Town Car in here. So these are vents from the Grand Marquis and Town Car. And then this custom box here, which controls the AC system semi-independently of the front AC system. And then that's what allows them to have rear AC in the back.
What are these?
Yes. Okay. Had a feeling. This is called the trouble light. So the trouble light in this car is designed for emergencies. So let's say the driver has a problem child in the back seat, being held at gunpoint, whatever. They have a switch in the driver's side, which I'll show you. They have a switch in the driver's side which enables this. Mine's been disabled because they cut it off during decommissioning. But that switch right there, click that, and that would trigger this, and it would trigger it in a pulse fashion like a hazard light. And when that is activated, it's supposed to tell the police that the cab needs to be pulled over because there is a problem in the vehicle. There's also one in the front which is in the hood, near the radiator, and that also blinks. So I'm not sure if you can see it. It's right there.
Oh, there it is.
So if you well, this used to come off because this was, you didn't used to be fastened, but it's right there.
I can see the trouble light through the grill right there.
Right. When the ignition is on and the car, this is also what this central machine controlled, roof lights. So when you had a fare and it was hired, that light does not turn on. When that light is off, that means there is a fare in the vehicle and the vehicle is not for hire. However, in the event that there is no fare and the vehicle is for hire, that light goes on.
Okay, I see that the light is on, but the side marker lights are off.
So the side marker lights are just indicator lights.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
And at one point, they used to have ones on the side that said off duty. Those were removed in about 2012 when they changed the decal package off these cars. I'm not sure if you've ever noticed, but depending on the year, you can tell when a photo was taken with a taxi cab, depending on the decal package on the vehicle. So from way all the way like in the 70s, all the way to about 2000, I believe it was 2007, something like that. These taxi cab stickers, there was no New York City cab, like New York City taxi sticker. It was the meter card was plastered right there. It said New York City taxi right up top, and it had the medallion number right here. In 2006, I believe, they changed it to a more modern design. They used the standard New York City graphics pack. This used to say taxi the whole way. It said NYC taxi. There were checkers on the back that expanded all the way to the rear of the quarter panel. Medallion number was moved up here, and the fare card was moved here. In 2011, that was changed again to the current taxi graphics package, which has this, no fare card, just metered fare, flat fare JFK, and they removed the checkering.
Oh, hot vinyl. Oh, hot vinyl.
Good news is the AC works.
Oh, hot vinyl. Yeah, and this is all the farther back it goes. I am 5'10", and this is not. I'm gonna go for bus driver.
Okay.
Ugh. People lived in these things. Yes, air conditioning, please. All right, so my right knee cannot properly operate the brake.
Right. Then
It's got a slide side. Ew.
Yeah, I have that same issue.
Ew.
What I can do is I can take this out.
I have to bring my left foot all the way over.
Up and out. Yep.
Oh, that is stupid.
Have all the markings of a New York cab.
Okay, that's still first gear. Listen to this thing sing.
Yep.
All right, so it's not, even with the rear gearing, not all that slow. Of course, it's just you and us. There's not 4 people in the back, plus JFK luggage. All right, it honestly will get out of its own way. It'll move. So is my light on the roof on right now?
Yes.
Is there any way for me to turn it off?
No, not without getting out and unplugging it.
Okay.
Or taking the topper off and twisting the lights out.
Gotcha. Nope, it will not spin.
No. Those gears will not let you.
I wonder why it feels so different from every other Crown Vic I've ever been in. Is it just my mental state? Is it the weird seating position? Is it the smell? Is it the... I was expecting the steering wheel to be a lot more sticky. Maybe he had a cover on it?
He did.
Ah.
I had him take it off when he sold it to me because I didn't want that. It's dusty and
it
falling
is.
apart.
It is coming off in my hands.
I got to reupholster it, frankly, or get a new replacement wheel.
After spending a day with this retired taxi, I thought about the countless passengers it carried and all of their stories and their passions and boners and vomit and laughter that all happened here. But a retired taxi cab can never return. The medallion is expired, making this vehicle illegal to drive in New York City. That's the fate of all cabs. A lifetime of work, and then they're cast out of paradise. For Nathaniel, and also for us, the Panther body represents a specific 10-year period of New York, 2003 to 2013. The old taxis were gone, and Uber wasn't a thing yet. This was during New York City's reconstruction or rebranding as America's City. Times Square became Disneyfied. Brooklyn became an artist's mecca, and Manhattan was richer than ever. Even the mortgage crisis couldn't stop the greatest city in the world. And carrying every soul with more money than time was Vic. You archaic body-on-frame V8 bubble butt dinosaur. Getting dented and crashed. Radiators cracking, boiling over. Your bearings spun. 5 fuel injectors working and 3 sneezing. Driven every day until it limped. And then repaired as fast as possible and sent back to Midtown to do battle once again. But the war is over, Vic. You're free. You're a horse now. Unbridled. Free to roam. And this slice of New York City, no, this isn't just a slice of New York City. This is New York City. Taxi cabs. They're the last of a dying breed. Crowding the avenues of New York City and its streets, rich with the smell of dehydrated piss, as if thirsty people rinsed the streets in urine and then rehydrated with more piss and then soaked the streets again. At least that's the cliche of New York City, right? But in reality, what you have is America's save point. It tracks and reflects the progress of the nation at large, rebooting the great American experiment. Because New York City is a collective personification of this country, there is no greater example of the melting pot nature of American society than through the 5 boroughs. It's where we inaugurated George Washington, drafted the Bill of Rights, and became a center for international trade. It influenced culture through literary and artistic movements like the Harlem Renaissance, the birth of hip-hop, punk rock, heavy metal, and Ellis Island was the channel through which immigrant hopefuls were reborn in the American image, under the watchful eye of the statue we got from the French. And Wall Street is a casino for gamblers in the Nile, anchored by the mantra, "It'll be different this time." Taxicabs are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem. This is not a P7A. This is not a cop car. And you know the score, pal. If you're not a cop, you're little people. If we were looking at it through the lens of literary theory or film criticism, the taxi is a window into themes of connection. It's something we long for but can't always get. It's the paradox of being so attached as to ride in a car with a person, yet so detached as to hardly remember anything about them once you get out. Some people don't even talk to their drivers and prefer to be left alone, which is fine. But in some cases, it goes too far in the other direction, a certain denial of personhood, rendering the driver as some sort of replica of a person rather than a person themselves. On either extreme, driving a taxi will either subject you to the full silence of your passenger or a rant on everything wrong with society, with only the weather and basic current events in between, in varying degrees of reason and fury. Ford Crown Victoria Taxi. The original Reddit. It's hard to imagine how tiresome it's got to be as a full-time job, because the closer you get to an experience, the harder it is to romanticize it. You think being a taxi driver would be a blast, like Animal House, but instead it's overrated and depressing, like Taxi Driver. The engine, well, it's your Ford standard 4.6. Nope, it's not the Interceptor engine. From factory, this got 239 horsepower at 4,900 RPM and 281 pound-feet of torque at 4,100 RPM. But Nathaniel suggests it's a lot closer to 190 horsepower now, which is pretty much what my 4Runner gets. Fuel economy, well, they said that it would get 16 city, 24 highway, but Nathaniel's been averaging 13 on a good day. Now, for the P7As, they dropped the rear gearing, or rather raised the rear gearing all the way to like 273. Crazy highway gearing, which is weird for a car designed for Manhattan. Most of these things lived their entire life and never got out of second gear. I guess they dropped the raised, made more highway gearing on the ring and pinion back there because they wanted this thing to have good highway. Like, we're gonna make them so they get good mileage and we're keeping with the times. But that all it meant is all the drivers would just drive around with their with the overdrive just locked off. Now, when I drove it, it got out of its way fine. It stayed in first gear a really long time. I mean, I guess it'll help the clutch packs doing that if you had 273 rear gearing. Anyway. The New York City taxi is the final clatter of the gate closing on the Radio Shack inside a dead mall known as the American Dream. Driving a cab was a path for so many people who came here from abroad. And even then, I don't think anyone would have anticipated the gradual obsolescence of their chosen career. And it used to be you had to pay a small fortune for the right to be a cabbie. You needed to buy a medallion. And without it, your car was just a replica on the road. Medallion rights peaked in 2013 at 1.2 to 1.3 million at auction. This is because there is a limited number of medallions at any one time. But by 2020, in the aftermath of the rise of rideshare devices, you could get a medallion for between $90,000 to $120,000. Rideshare services were the replica in the early teens, but as the decade rolled on, the light-up Uber or Lyft sign in the windshield became the de facto standard of personalized public transportation. Suddenly, the replica of the taxicab became the real thing, and the real thing became the replica. And when you have no use for the replica, they get retired. As of April 2020, fewer than 10 P7As are still in service. Those drivers are keeping these things alive, even if they're basically just runners passing the Olympic torch back and forth. Yep, and they're going to be retired by the end of the year. And not every car will escape permanent retirement like this one, because not every taxi has a Nathaniel willing to pay $1,100 to buy one, and then another $2,200 to make it roadworthy again. It takes more than money. It takes passion, respect. Might even take love, or, lacking that, a genuine connection. New York City taxicabs are exiled from their own world on the promise of a new life awaiting in the off-world colonies. To steal their way back to Eden would be to become a fugitive to the manually imposed order. And so it is that these cars struggle to stay alive beyond their function. These cars are still useful in a world outside the city, and it's a shame that many of them won't get to see it. Even if this old girl will meet her end. Even this old girl will meet her end, as all cars do. Even this old girl will meet her end, as all cars do. One can only hope that's a long way off. It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?